What if the only reason you haven't reached the life you dream of is not because of bad luck, lack of talent, or even lack of opportunity, but because of invisible mental patterns that quietly control every choice you make? Today we are diving into the deep psychology of motivation, uncovering why your brain resists change, and how you can flip the hidden switches inside your mind to build unstoppable momentum. Stay until the end, because what you hear in this video might just be the moment everything changes for you. Every day when you wake up, your brain immediately begins working against you in ways you don't even notice. Before your feet touch the floor, a negotiation has already started inside your head. Do I get up now or snooze for 10 more minutes? Do I start the project today or wait until I feel ready? Do I take the risk, or do I stay safe? These negotiations are not about laziness or weakness, they are about psychology. Your brain is wired to protect you from uncertainty and pain, even if that pain is just the discomfort of stepping outside of your routine. Centuries ago, this wiring saved lives. Avoiding risk meant avoiding predators or conserving energy when food was scarce. But in the modern world, those same instincts quietly sabotage growth. You feel resistance not because the task is impossible, but because your brain perceives any new effort as a potential threat. Think about the last time you set a big goal for yourself. At the beginning, you were excited. Maybe it was starting a fitness journey, launching a business, or finally writing that book. But then, as soon as the initial energy faded, your brain whispered reasons to delay. You don't have time today. You'll start tomorrow. You're not good enough yet. Maybe it's not the right season. The truth is, your brain was calculating what psychologists call activation energy, the mental cost of starting. If that cost feels high, your brain convinces you to wait. That is why motivation feels so unpredictable. It's not that you are broken, it's that you are human. Understanding this is the first step toward taking back control. And if you truly want to master this process, if you want to stop letting your own mind hold you back, don't forget to subscribe to Brain Vibe 360, because here we turn psychology into the fuel for real-world action. Now let's go deeper into how motivation is actually created. You've probably heard the saying, motivation doesn't last, and in one sense, that's true. But what psychology teaches us is that motivation isn't a lightning bolt that randomly strikes, it's a feedback loop. At the center of that loop is dopamine, the brain's chemical of anticipation. Most people think dopamine is released when we succeed, but that's only half the story. Dopamine spikes when your brain expects a reward. That's why scrolling through social media feels addictive. Your brain anticipates the chance of something new, exciting, or entertaining appearing on the screen. The unpredictable nature of those rewards keeps you hooked. But here's the good news. You can hijack this exact system for your own success. Instead of waiting for motivation to arrive, you can design small wins that your brain begins to expect. For example, if your goal is to get fit, don't focus on the idea of a perfect body months from now. Focus on the immediate reward of checking off today's workout, feeling your heart race, or even marking a streak on your calendar. That visual streak becomes a cue that your brain anticipates, and dopamine begins to work for you instead of against you. Over time, this loop becomes automatic. Motivation is no longer about hype or temporary energy. It becomes about your brain craving the consistency of progress. This is why the most successful people often seem unstoppable. They're not relying on willpower. They're relying on systems that keep their brain hooked on anticipation. And if you want to learn how to build those systems step by step, remember to subscribe to Brain Vibe 360, where we transform complex psychology into simple, actionable motivation. But motivation is not only about dopamine. At a deeper level, it's about identity. We don't consistently act in ways that contradict the story we believe about ourselves. If you see yourself as someone who always gives up, your behavior will follow that script. If you see yourself as someone who isn't disciplined, your actions will align with that belief. That's why most New Year's resolutions fail. People try to change their behavior without changing their identity. The secret is to flip the order. Don't wait until you've achieved big results to call yourself disciplined or successful. Instead, use tiny actions to reinforce a new identity, and let that identity fuel your motivation. For example, instead of saying, "I want to run a marathon," start saying, "I am a runner." Then prove it to yourself with one short jog. Instead of saying, "I want to write a book," say, "I am a writer." Then prove it with one paragraph. Every tiny action is a vote for the new identity you want to build. And when your identity shifts, motivation stops being a daily fight. You no longer need to push yourself, because you're simply living out who you believe you are. This is one of the most powerful psychological principles in the world of behavior change. Change your story, and your story will change you. Still, we can't ignore the reality of failure. Even with systems, even with identity shifts, life will throw setbacks in your way. You'll miss workouts. You'll have unproductive days. You'll fall back into old patterns. Most people think this means they've failed. But psychology teaches us that failure is not a dead end, it's feedback. Every time you stumble, your brain collects data. Did you try to start too big? Did you design the wrong environment? Did you lack accountability? Each mistake is information you can use to adjust your system. The most successful people in history aren't the ones who avoided failure. They're the ones who reframed it. Thomas Edison famously said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." Every experiment, even the ones that collapse, brings you closer to the version of yourself you're trying to build. The trick is to reset without shame. Instead of saying, "I blew it," say, "I've learned something." Then take the next smallest step forward. The ability to restart quickly, without self-criticism, is one of the strongest predictors of long-term motivation. When you see failure as data, motivation doesn't die with your mistakes, it grows from them. So how do you apply all of this in your daily life? Let's build a practical roadmap. First, lower the activation energy. Make starting so ridiculously small that your brain can't say no. Want to work out? Put on your shoes and walk for 2 minutes. Want to write? Open your document and write one sentence. Starting is the hardest part, so shrink it until it's almost impossible not to begin. Second, design your environment. Your brain is constantly responding to cues around you. If your phone is within reach, distraction is inevitable. If your running shoes are hidden in the closet, exercise is unlikely. Put cues for success in your line of sight and cues for distraction out of sight. Third, shift your identity with micro-proofs. Every time you complete a tiny action, remind yourself, "This is who I am." Log it, track it, and watch your story evolve. Fourth, link immediate rewards to long-term habits. Drink your favorite smoothie after your workout, or reserve your favorite playlist for study sessions. Your brain craves instant gratification, so give it healthy ways to feel good right now. And finally, embrace failure as feedback. Build rituals of quick reset. 5 push-ups after missing a workout, 1 paragraph after skipping a writing day. Keep the chain alive, even with the smallest action, and momentum will always return. Now imagine your future if you start living this way. Picture yourself 6 months from now, not as someone who waits for motivation, but as someone who creates it daily. Imagine looking back and realizing that the version of you who hesitated, who doubted, who procrastinated, is gone. Not because you became someone else overnight, but because you slowly rewired your brain one choice at a time. That version of you is stronger, calmer, more disciplined, and more fulfilled. And here's the best part. None of this requires superhuman talent. It requires understanding psychology and applying it with consistency. The same brain that once sabotaged you can become your greatest ally. Motivation is not magic. Motivation is design. And today you have the tools to design it. If this message resonates with you, don't just nod and move on. Take action now. Like this video to give yourself a micro win. Share it with someone who needs this push. And subscribe to Brain Vibe 360 so you can keep feeding your brain with the psychology and strategies that build real momentum. This is Brain Vibe 360, reminding you that the future you're dreaming of is only one small step away.